I saw the news yesterday about Mattel and DC partnering up again. So I wanted to come on here and make some points, or at least my points on the whole matter. What does this mean, if you read the title, for the future of DC toys? Now, as you will, currently, McFarlane is making DC toys. But what does that mean if Mattel takes back the license? Well, if you see before you, I have just a handful of some DC figures from Mattel. We have some that were part of the superheroes line. We have some that are part of DC Universe Classics. Of course, we have some mainly right over here that's part of DC Multiverse. And some people are saying that if Mattel gets back the license, it's going to be awful. Nobody is going to want to buy them. They're going to be outdated. But people forget, this is what we had when they started out. A pin body, same joints. I talked about this in my McFarlane vs. Mattel video last month. So if you haven't checked that out, you need to. It's very informative. I do ramble a little, but I want to bring that up. But I want to take a look at these two. This is what Mattel was doing before they got the line, before they lost the license. This. If we all remember at the time when these came out at the end of their run, Hasbro was still doing pins. They have updated to, they have updated, but they were still doing pins. Mattel over here was doing pinless. They were giving us pinless action figures with double jointed knees. Now, they didn't do double jointed elbows yet, but I do believe, my gut, that they would have given the next wave. But it was the last three waves, which was Lobo, Killer Croc, and Ninja Batman, I do believe, after they did not get the license renewed. And yes, there's issues like the Superman. From the torso up, like you take the legs, that's a great Superman. Then from down, his legs are too skinny. I agree. Kyle Rayner looks really good. This was a body they reused except from the legs down and the arms. But everything else was reused across the board except the Superman. Both of them have different torsos. But what I'm meaning is, this is where Mattel last was at when they did their DC figures. And they also did scale with Marvel Legends as well, which is, I think there's a lot more collectors out there who rather would see the DC figures scale and be compatible with Marvel Legends rather than be upscaled. That's the problem with McFarlane is 7 inches, but sometimes the figures go 8 inches because he doesn't keep up with his scaling. But anyway, I'm going to move these back here. But why am I mentioning these points? It's because we can all sit here and we could speculate, but we right now at the time have more questions than answers. But I want to bring in some lines that Mattel is doing and see their improvement. So I'm going to bring back Superman, and I'm going to bring in some other figures. Like the first one, we have Man-at-Arms for the Masterverse line. This figure is completely pinless as well, like the Superman. However, you've got double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, you got boot swivel, you got a waist cut, you got torso movement, all the head movement you want, interchangeable hands, interchangeable accessories. I mean, the works. And then we bring in another line of figures. Move Superman more towards the middle. We've got Mattel Wrestling. Here's an Elite Kurt Angle for the Ledge line. I did this review last year. And then you got the Ultimate Edition Roddy Piper. Soft goods, alternate hands, accessories, the works. Ultimate editions, they come with tons of hands, tons of soft goods, 3 alternate heads. I mean, we look at what Mattel was when they last did DC, but if we put them with where they are now when it comes to the Master Universe with their wrestling figures, they really have improved over the years when it comes to the toy license. Now, the big question is, everybody's asking, what do I think? Do I think they'll be remaining 7 inches tall, or do I think they'll be 6 inches? If I'm thinking in company-wise of Mattel, my best guess, it'll probably be 7 inches tall. Why? Because if you look at their toy lines, besides the cartoon series, a Motu cartoon collection, those are 6 inches tall. But every other toy line, from Masterverse to wrestling, every other line is 7 to 8 inches tall, which nobody really wants that at all. So, in my opinion, I think they should not do 7 inches, because look where that got McFarlane. McFarlane, sure, they had a lot of great sculpted figures, sure, a lot of them were great, but look at the track record. Most of them were a lot of repaints, reissues, stuff we did not care about. All we wanted, and I spoke about this, all we wanted was just classic iterations of DC characters, not this alternate universe, what if kind of nonsense. We didn't want that. But in my personal opinion, I think it's a good thing Mattel has gotten the license back, because as we've seen with their track record of how they're doing figures now, they're selling really well. Their wrestling figures and their Motu stuff is doing really, really well. So I can see why DC would want to go back to Mattel again. I see that as a company standpoint. Now, I do feel bad for those who have really dipped and dived really deep into the McFarlane, because I saw some comments yesterday over, well, if McFarlane's losing license, I'm done, because I've collected too much. Me, I have sold most of my McFarlane figures. I don't have them really, and I've been doing, as you could tell, Mattel DC stuff beforehand. But it's because there's just something about Mattel figures that is so much better than McFarlane. Yes, McFarlane's got all the sculpts. They've got sometimes the paint. They've got it. But sometimes simple is good. But I mean, if we look at this Lex Luthor, look at all the detail on the armor, the paint job, everything. This is what McFarlane should be. And we know a lot of times McFarlane likes to cheap it out and go with sculpted plastic rather than paint it. So I mean, there's that. But it's just, you know what I'm meaning. Is it sad McFarlane is losing license? In a way it is, but with figures that have recently been coming out, you know, making us wait so long to get figures we want, you know, making them exclusives, this and that, overpricing stuff that doesn't need to be overpriced. They've really fumbled the ball, and Todd shot himself in the foot, especially with the issue of way too many Batman as well, because there's Batman obsession. So he really shot himself in the foot. Do I think that maybe McFarlane can thrive on something else? I don't know. Maybe he can do the Spawn line and focus on that. I don't know. But I'm more interested and curious to see what Mattel will do having the DC license back, especially now with what they know, what they can do with Motu and with wrestling. So we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for DC when we get some more announcements and more updates from Mattel themselves about it. But anyways, everybody, that is all the time I have for today. I appreciate y'all stopping by, and as always, take care.
Plastic Man, the one, the original Elastic Man, always in great shape for the shape he's in, the fantastic Plastic Man.